Hey everybody, it's the Dystopian Dance Party podcast.
Yeah.
How many, Callie, what is this, month 9? It feels like
Oh.
we've been doing this for our entire lives.
Um, I don't know.
Month
I
yeah, it
I
is
don't
month
know.
9. Cat in the
I
Hat
don't
was
even know
month
what
8.
month it is.
Shrek 2 is month 9. Yeah, we're still doing it. Zach and Callie here. We made it. I guess the good thing is we're now 75% through, or we will be once we finish talking about Shrek 2. And that's the only positivity I have today. Oh, there is one other thing. I texted you. I watched this movie last night. We're recording this on May 26th, and the episode is going to go up on May 31st, Memorial Day. So as always, we're pushing it right to the edge. This is literally the last night we could record because Callie's going to be out of town.
Also, I just think it's funny that we had all these plans. We're just gonna push 2 of these movies out, record at the beginning of the month, and then we'll have it up by the middle of the month. And we again could not get it together.
Literally could not bring myself to watch even one of the 2 movies.
I watched it.
You watched Shrek 2 early in the month, but you couldn't.
But I could not bring myself to watch the third one after that. And it was like I watched it so early because I was like in a good mood that day, and I'm like, okay, well, it's here. I have time. Let's just watch it.
Might as well let it even out your good mood.
Oh, and I'm glad I did it early because this second half of the month.
I held off until the last possible minute, as always. And I watched it on Hulu, and I remembered that this happened. We might have even talked about it when we watched the first Shrek, that this happened then too. For some reason, Hulu always says, like when you click the movie, it tells you the title of the movie and the runtime. And both Shrek movies now, Hulu has said 2 hours, and I've been like 2 hours, and so I didn't remember. It was only after I've watched the movie that I remembered that the same thing happened to me when I watched the first Shrek. So like I was just in a foul mood the whole time. I texted Callie. I was like, this movie's 2 fucking hours long. And the whole time through the movie, I was like, there's an hour and a half left of this shit. And then I was like, there's an hour left of this shit. And then finally I was like, I can't believe there's 30 more minutes of this shit. And then I was like, wait a second. This feels like the end. So and that's when I remembered that both times Hulu has lied to me. I don't know why they're trying, because
I think they're trying to deter people from watching Shrek.
It's interesting because I'm not one of those people that thinks like all movies need to be 90 minutes. I like a lot of long movies. I watched the Zack Snyder cut of Justice League. I didn't watch it all in one sitting, but I watched it all in one weekend. And it was excessive, but I sat through it all like 7 fucking hours of it or whatever it is. But for some reason, like just the idea of Shrek 2 being even 2 hours long, I'm just like, how dare they? Like the
Well, I don't know which is funnier, the fact that you sat there stewing the entire time thinking that it was 2 hours, or the fact that I didn't give a fuck and I was just like, yeah, 2 hours, an hour and a half, 3 hours, who fucking cares? I'm still gonna watch it. So I'll sit here and fucking watch this no matter how long it is. Who cares anymore?
So I'm gonna try to remember if Hulu tells me that Shrek the Third is 2 hours long. I'm gonna try not to fly off the handle, but I also can't promise that I won't.
Well, before I also remembered that it just lies to you, and before you said, oh no, it was just like, for whatever reason, Hulu just says it's 2 hours. I texted you. I was like, well, hopefully Shrek the Third isn't 3 hours long.
Yeah. Anyway, we got some comments as expected from Cat in the Hat last month. Thank you everybody for writing in. Thanks especially to Terry the Man. Let's hear it for Terry the Man. Haven't heard from him in a while.
I think he blocked me. Because I cannot see this comment. This is the first time I'm reading it now that I'm looking at your notes. This motherfucker blocked me.
Terry asks, are you guys still jerking it to Mike Myers?
Yes.
Well, yes.
Short answer is yes.
Yeah, the concept is it's called 12 Months of Mike, and it's been 9 months. And then he said, dude, is he still relevant? I don't know. But if you guys know what's best for you, ratings wise, you should get back to doing Kiss related episodes. I just want to pause for the irony of saying Mike Myers isn't relevant and then telling us to do an episode about Kiss. I will admit that the Kiss episodes do by far our biggest numbers, but also our numbers are pretty pathetic, like even at their best. So if we were doing it for the numbers, I don't know, we would have packed it in a long time ago.
I don't think anything about our podcast screams that we are even aware that people are listening. Like, it's all just self-indulgent bullshit.
But yeah, he did say those were probably your best episodes. I think that's true. That's accurate, Terry. And he said, and oh yeah, how's Callie with a K or Callie with a C these days? Tell her I said, hey. Well, you could unblock her on you could unblock her on YouTube and you could see.
Yeah, and that would also help you with the spelling of the name because my name is written out on YouTube. I'm not sure where the like disrespect from spelling my name. Like, is that supposed to be a sign of disrespect that this guy doesn't know how to spell my name?
I don't know. I'm this our whole relationship with Terry has really taken some interesting turns, and I don't know where we stand with him now, to be honest. But it's always good to hear from him. Next we have somebody we do hear from more often, Marty White, responding to my response to his comment last time. He said, "Oh well, Zach, you're breaking even this time. My praise of Mike's development of craft was sarcastic, so -1. I'm sorry. I'm in so deep that I can't. I'm beyond sarcasm at this.
Point. No, it's there's no jokes anymore.
Yeah,
it's dead serious.
But you pronounced Vim Vender's name correctly, so +1. All right, so that's good. I'm good with breaking even. Humongous, our friend Humongous said, I've kind of got to see this movie now, meaning Cat in the Hat. Laughing my ass off. It just sounds so fucking God. I think I've got to see this. Then The Love Guru.
The Cat in the Hat honestly is the only movie aside from maybe Austin Powers 1 that I would like and the two Wayne's Worlds, but
right.
I would actually recommend people watch.
It is
just because
weird.
It's batshit crazy. It's not that long,
right?
And it really has to be seen to be believed.
Right. Yeah, I mean it's objectively a bad movie, but I would also recommend it because it's a bad movie, but it's not like any other movie that you'll see, include even like The Grinch with Jim Carrey. Like they're totally different categories. It kind of needs to be seen to be believed. Jukebox Cowboy, also a frequent listener and commenter, he weighs in. The candy-coated psilocybin of the Cat in the Hat will seem like a fond memory once you get to The Love Guru. It is repellent. That's about what I remember. Jay May says, thanks. The break will be nice. Sadly, the break didn't, because we couldn't get our shit together this month. It's not, I mean, it's sort of a break. It's like, I'm not going to think about Shrek until late in June. So it's basic.
Oh my God. Literally every time I forget that there's another fucking Shrek we have to watch.
There's two more.
Oh my God. And like, Jay May, you don't have to listen to this podcast. We have to watch Shrek every month. I guess we don't have to, but
I think he means the break will be nice for us, but maybe he means for him.
Yeah, great. I don't have to listen to you fuckos talking about Shrek anymore. Well, guess what?
And then Laura DeMarco, I think this is our first time, if I'm not mistaken, I think this is our first time hearing from Laura. So thanks for commenting. I think this is the first time we've heard from a woman. Terry the man. I was going to say I assumed Terry's gender, but he very helpfully spells that out. Anyway, Laura says, I've watched this, meaning, of course, Cat in the Hat, plenty of times. And in my spare time, you know what I thought? Why didn't they put fur on Mike Myers' face? At least it'd make him more of a cat. Or do what Cats the Musical did in Broadway or in the 1998 production. It's a rare occasion that I find myself saying that the makeup from Cats would be a preferable way of making a human look like a cat. But I think that's absolutely Right. Like,
you know what though? I actually like the makeup of the like Broadway production of Cats.
Yeah,
but
the movie is actually the Cats movie is actually very Cat in the Hat-esque. Like it's similar where they have like human proportions and then like these weird human faces, but with just like tufts of fur on the sides. It's weirdly like Cat in the Hat inspired, which is interesting because I don't think anybody has ever been like, wow, Mike Myers' Cat in the Hat, what a great looking film. Like,
did they get inspired by Cat in the Hat to make cats?
I don't know. I hope so.
I would like to find out. That's some research I probably could have done, but didn't because I don't care that much. Just in this moment, I want to know that. But
yeah. All right. So that's all of our comments this time. Now we're going to talk about Shrek 2. I don't have a lot of background for this because it's kind of one of those movies where it's like a no-brainer. Shrek made a ton of money, and so they made a Shrek 2. They actually started working on Shrek 2 before the first Shrek was even out. So this is all from Wikipedia, as usual. I pulled this together in like 5 minutes because that's how much time Shrek 2 deserves. It says, in 2001, soon after the original Shrek proved to be a hit, Mike Myers, Eddie Murphy, and Cameron Diaz negotiated an upfront payment of $10 million each for voicing a sequel to the film. That was a significant rise from the $350,000 salary they were paid for the first film. According to Jeffrey Katzenberg, the executive producer of Shrek 2 and a co-founder of DreamWorks, who led the negotiations, the payments were probably the highest in the actors' entire careers. Each of the actors were expected to work between 15 and 18 hours in total.
Can you fucking imagine? Can you fucking imagine making that much money just sharding in a microphone?
Yeah, I would be embarrassed for that information to be public, to be honest.
I'd be laughing myself to the bank. I don't give a fuck.
And this kind of leads to my another comment. I was going to say that there's no like Mike Myers shenanigans. Like, you know, the first movie, I mean, there wasn't a lot. Honestly, the Shrek movies are barely Mike Myers movies, which is something that I'm going to bring up as we discuss it. But I mean, in the first movie, there was the famous story of him deciding to do a Scottish accent halfway through production and re-recording all of his lines, which is classic, you know, vintage Myers. And there's nothing really that I saw in my, again, admittedly cursory research, but I also think that of course there's nothing because he got $10 million for 15 hours of work.
Oh my God. If I made that amount of money in that amount of hours, I would have a lot less temper tantrums also.
Yeah, I think it didn't matter. He didn't need somebody to be like bringing him chocolates and stuff because he had $10 million. So, and maybe he got all of his diva behavior out on the set of The Cat in the Hat. So he was better behaved for Shrek 2. It also helps that he didn't have to like do hours of makeup. Unless he was method and just wanted to get into character.
It's just green.
So not a lot of background information on Mike here, but the screenwriters for the first film, Ted Elliott and Terry Rossio, apparently insisted they wanted Shrek 2 to be a traditional fairy tale. But after disagreements with the producers, they left the project and were replaced by director Andrew Adamson. His writing of the film was inspired by Guess Who's Coming to Dinner. And so I mean, that's quite that's an interesting change of pace. They wanted a fairy tale. And then Andrew Adamson comes on and he's like, no, I want this to be an allegory for interracial relationships.
Comparing race to being an ogre is...
Yeah, there's a lot of weird subtext when you follow that through all the way, because it's like, does dating someone from a different race make you that race? Because that's what happened in this. Like, she became an ogre.
And
anyway.
Then the dad, spoiler alert, the dad is a frog. So what does that say?
Yeah, the metaphor only goes so far. Like I said, the movie started in 2001 before the first film was completed. DreamWorks made sure there was something new to see in Shrek 2 by putting more human characters in the film and improving their appearance, which...
No!
I know.
No!
um, one of my notes that I took writing this is there obviously is an improvement in animation because, CGI advanced in those 3 years between 2001 and 2004. But I feel like the higher fidelity just makes it look worse.
I hate CGI now. Like, I feel like CGI was almost better before it got better because now all it is these ugly, uncanny valley ass faces and digital fur technology. Like, the whole thing about cats was advancing this digital fur technology where we can see every fucking strand of fur on a cat's face or ass or whatever. But everything else looks terrible and it's creepy.
Yeah, I can see that the animation is technically better, but I think the art style is worse. Like, everybody the added textures just make everyone look uglier. I feel like I don't remember Shrek's chest being hairy in the first movie. Do you?
No, I do. I honestly don't remember being hairy in this one. Was it Human Shrek or Shrek?
Shrek. Yeah, he's got like chest hair.
In the first movie, like Lord Farquaad and all of the human characters were the most repulsive. I would rather look at Shrek than the humans. And then the second one, they added more.
The character design, everyone is so ugly that you need to rely on context clues to know whether someone's attractive or not. Because Human Shrek, spoiler alert, Shrek becomes human during this movie. if you haven't seen Shrek 2, you're gonna get spoiled. But Human Shrek is supposed to be a hunk, and I'm like, is he? Like, he looks like a human Shrek, but I guess I'll take your word for it.
Like all these women are fawning over him, and the women are ugly too.
Yeah.
But like, it actually, it kind of reminds me. I texted you about this too. I've been watching episodes of the Monkeys, and you can tell that Davy and Mickey are supposed to be like the heartthrobs and like the sexy ones because they're constantly cheesing for the camera. But every time they cheese for the camera, I'm like, oh my God. That's what Shrek in human form is like.
Mickey Dolenz also looks kind of like a human Shrek.
Yeah, I think that's what made me think about it. And like Prince Charming in Shrek is obviously supposed to be like super attractive, but he's fucking weird looking.
Yeah, everybody just looks off.
I mean, I'm glad that I'm the type of person who's repulsed by CGI humans and not attracted to them. Right. That's one bright side to this. It would be a hell of a lot weirder if I thought human Shrek was a hottie.
Yeah. This is also, I was planning on bringing this up a little bit later, but this kind of makes me want to segue a bit because the thing about the more humans made me think about this. So an article you might have seen because it went viral for all the wrong reasons about a week ago from The Guardian. It was called Shrek at 20, an unfunny and overrated low for blockbuster animation. Gen Z was not happy about this article, but I think that we were overall relatively kind about Shrek. I think because we were just relieved that we had a breather between the two Austin Powers. The two lesser Austin Powers.
I was thinking about that too. Like, how different would my perception of this movie be if it wasn't sandwiched between two Austin Powers and Cat in the Hat?
Yeah, exactly.
And nostalgia because we had it on DVD and stuff.
Right. So but
I also saw this movie when I was a kid, and I don't remember hating it as much as I did this time.
No, me neither. In fact, I was 20 when I saw Shrek 2. And I always thought of it as roughly on par with the first Shrek. And then watching it again, I was like, wow, this sucks ass. Like, what movie did I think I was watching?
I mean, I think for the most part, it is on par with Shrek in that it's the same goddamn movie, but like they kind of heighten everything that we didn't really like about the first Shrek, like the overuse of music and like singing.
The fucking music. Yeah, I've got so many things to say about that goddamn music. Yeah, and the singing. It was like I feel like Shrek farting. I feel like Shrek 2. It's like if they made a sequel to just the Robin Hood sequence of Shrek 1. That's what they were like zeroed in on that, and they were like, this is what all 90 minutes, thankfully not 2 hours, of Shrek 2 is going to be. And it's just the whole thing is running at that level.
Okay. So example, at the beginning they redo the whole like Shrek getting ready part, but now Fiona's in it too because they're married, and Fiona is shaving because I guess being an ogre like gives you like hormonal issues that cause you to grow hair as a woman. And then they're both in the mud and they both fart in the mud.
Oh yeah, I know. And it's like
so stupid.
I guess that's supposed to be because, as we know, Mike Myers farts whenever he's submerged in. Or no, that's libelous. Mike Myers' characters fart every time they're submerged in liquid. Yeah. I can't prove that Mike Myers himself does it, but I do find I'm just gonna say it's awfully convenient that all of his characters do.
And then like, okay, so you marry an ogre and now suddenly you're extremely gaseous? Like I don't get it.
Maybe it's their diet.
Yeah, I guess.
So anyway, this article, Shrek at 20, it's about the first Shrek, not the second Shrek. But what made me think about it and what made me want to bring it up now. So I'm just going to read this section of it. It says, the most curious element of Shrek is how uninterested it seems to be in the fairy tale universe it creates. Some of these creatures, the fairy tale creatures, are assembled in mass detentions by Lord Farquaad, who exiles them to Shrek's swamp, and Princess Fiona's dilemma, imprisoned in a dragon-guarded castle tower, we call Sleeping Beauty. But once Shrek and Donkey cross the kingdom on a quest to bring Fiona to Farquaad, the storybook references are all but abandoned. Even when Robin Hood and his merry men appear in the woods, the film blows past that boring old mythos in order to pay homage to The Matrix and Riverdance. And I was thinking about that, and I was like, this really applies almost more to Shrek 2 than to the first one. So like there's these scenes in Shrek 2 that I always remember because they're like really evocative when they go to that bar or inn or whatever, the Poison Apple, and it's like this creepy place and like Captain Hook is playing the piano and singing like both Tom Waits and Nick Cave, which is an interesting choice. But anyway, it's like there's so much like atmosphere, and it's kind of like this world is kind of interesting, but the movie is like, forget about this bullshit, and then they just make us see Jennifer Saunders as the fairy godmother ordering fast food in a drive-thru. It's like they can't get rid of the fairy tale stuff quickly enough. It's kind of like, I don't know, like all of the characters are just vehicles for these really puerile pop culture jokes. And it's not that I think Shrek has like a deep lore that needs to be explored, but I just feel like, I don't know, like it also makes me think about, you probably haven't seen this because you don't have a kid, but parts of Shrek remind me of the newish Disney movie Tangled. That kind of felt like this is like an interesting tone because it's kind of self-aware and funny, but it also like has some interest in the world instead of everything being like a cardboard cutout, like obvious ironic parody that you're not supposed to take seriously. And it just, I don't know. It's so much more appealing than Shrek.
So Disney won is what you're saying.
Yeah, they did. They did. And so much of this movie is like, okay, I'm watching again, the fairy godmother sing these stupid songs, you know, like a Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo parody that goes on for like 3 minutes. And it's like, at what point am I just watching Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo? And at what point is it that the Disney version is actually better? Like, I'm supposed to feel superior because they're making fun of it, but it's like, I would rather be watching fucking Cinderella than this tripe. Like, at least Cinderella was like a milestone in animation. Anyway, so that's my rant, and that's my defense of the much hated Guardian Shrek article. I do think that guy hated the first Shrek more than we did, but I also think
try fucking watching Shrek between a million other Mike Myers movies. Yeah. You'll like it a hell of a lot more too, buddy.
Exactly. The last kind of like behind the scenes thing I want to mention, apparently in an early version of Shrek 2, the plot was that Shrek abdicated his throne and called for a fairy tale election. And then the movie was, it sounds like, I don't know how Shrek figures into all of this, which makes it so, apparently this is why it wasn't made, because it's Pinocchio and the gingerbread man running against each other, with Pinocchio's campaign based on honesty. Well, the gingerbread man was a smear campaign. Director Andrew Adamson said it was overtly satiric and political with many funny ideas, but it was more intellectual than emotional. And on the one hand, I'm like, that sounds like it might be funnier. But on the other hand, I'm like, I feel like there was already arguably too much Pinocchio and gingerbread man in this version of Shrek 2. So having a movie where they were the main characters basically would be hard to watch.
I don't even know why the fairy tale. I mean, aside from the fact that, like you said, there's this whole entire world that they set up that they barely pay attention to. Yeah. The only characters they seem to pay attention to, though, are like the fucking comedy relief from the first movie,
right?
That made sense in
really
that context.
They're
it made sense in the first one, and then it's just like they're just back. Like Shrek didn't even like them. He pushed them out of his swamp, and all of a sudden they're all buds. Like, it's weird.
It is weird. Yeah, they're literally introduced because they're watching the events of the film on TV. Like, they could not be less connected to the plot at the point that they show up. Also, TV exists in the Shrek universe. Who knew? But it's a magic mirror, which I guess everybody has. I don't know. I thought that was specifically Farquaad's magic mirror. Again,
well, I'm getting
too hung up on Shrek lore.
I think
so Pinocchio got it?
I don't know. I guess so. Like, they killed Farquaad. They could have just stolen his mirror and used it as a TV.
They looted his palace, and Pinocchio happened to get the mirror.
Yeah. Yep, sounds about right.
Yeah. So Shrek 2, again, we're living in this bizarre alternate universe called the early 21st century, where everybody is just wild about Shrek. It premiered at the Cannes Film Festival, where it competed for the Palme d'Or. It did not, however, win the Palme d'Or. It met with favorable reviews, like its predecessor, grossed $919.8 million worldwide. It was the second largest 3-day opening weekend in United States history, and the largest opening for an animated film at the time of its release. It went on to become the highest grossing film of 2004 worldwide. It was DreamWorks' most successful film to date, and it was the highest grossing animated film of all time until Toy Story 3 surpassed it in 2010. And it received 2 Academy Award nominations for Best Animated Feature and Best Original Song, presumably the Counting Crows song, and not Holding Out for a Hero. R.I.P. Jim Steinman. And its associated soundtrack reached the top 10 on the U.S. Billboard 200. So yeah, Shrek Mania was in full effect in 2004. Whatever bizarre mass delusion that American culture had that made everybody just love Shrek.
I think it's still here. You know what? I think this country just fucking sucks, and Americans are stupid. There are many things I could point out that prove this theory, but the fact that we all fucking love Shrek is the only one I'm going to do right now.
It's the only one you need. So yeah, this was a wildly successful movie. For whatever reason, but I'm gonna say as a Mike Myers film, this falls short. So this is the first time that I've done this. Usually we do minutes to Mike, and that means the first time you hear or see Mike Myers on camera. But this movie, I thought about this, and I had to make a distinction between minutes to Shrek, which is 3 minutes and 2 seconds. Already not great, by the way. That's almost So I Married an Axe Murderer level. So 3 minutes and 2 seconds to Shrek, but he doesn't speak for the beginning. You know, the first 2 minutes that we see him, it's that montage of him and his wife
farting in mud.
So I count minutes to Mike as 5:23 because that's the first time you hear Mike Myers because Shrek and Mike Myers are distinct. You know, like it's not like Mike Myers did motion cap for Shrek. It's just his voice. And we don't hear his voice until 5.5 minutes in. So this is much less of a Mike Myers movie than the first Shrek. And in fact, the first Shrek, we talked a little bit about the Myers Shrek distinction the first time. You know, we talked about there's a school of thought, an argument that could be made that you're only ever seeing half of Mike Myers on screen because you're only ever hearing him. So, you know, depending on what school of thought you subscribe to, the first Shrek was anywhere between 90 and 185 mic proof. And this one, by those same standards, is between 68 and 136 So this is pretty low. This is pretty weak. This is not going to knock you on your ass like Goldmember. That's for sure. As a Mike Myers film, this is disappointing, and as a Shrek film, and just as a film in general, it's just generally
just a way to spend time.
Yeah, it's just generally disappointing. The nicest thing I'll say about it is that it was not, in fact, 2 hours like I feared. That's the best thing I have to say. So anyway, let's get into it. Format-wise, it's a carbon copy of the first one. It starts with a storybook, but this time it's telling Prince Charming's side of the story. Prince Charming is voiced by Rupert Everett, and he just does like a smarmy British guy voice, telling the story about how he was supposed to go through all of the hoops that Shrek went through to save Fiona, but by the time he got there, it was actually the wolf who is still just wearing the grandmother's. We talked about this a little bit, that the wolf just stays in the grandmother's nightgown. And,
why is the wolf there? It took
I don't know.
It was like a big, long journey to get there. Why the fuck is the wolf there?
Yeah. The last we saw the wolf, he was in the swamp doing karaoke in the special feature, Shrek Swamp Karaoke. And now he's in the castle just taking a nap. So that like sets up the conflict. Is Prince Charming feels like he should have.
The way you set that up was like, why the fuck is he still in the swamp doing karaoke where he belongs? Last time I saw him, he was doing
karaoke. So the conflict of the movie, like Prince Charming's the bad guy. So I guess I'm supposed to say that that's like a clever reversal or whatever. I'm just like
when did this happen though? We didn't know anything about Fiona's parents. We didn't hear about this marriage arrangement in the first one. If Shrek hadn't saved her and they got married, then she would have been married to Lord Farquaad. So
right.
Like, I don't know, maybe if the parents want her to stay in a tower for her entire life until she's saved by Prince Charming, maybe they should keep a better eye on her and make sure that no one is going in there. Or
provide some assistance to Prince Charming. Like it's part of the deal that they don't help him, because it just seems like this was all just supposed to work out. I guess what it was is, you don't know this at this point, but they got help from the fairy godmother, who is also Prince Charming's mother. And
what was the help though?
I think the help was that, I don't know, she would break the curse, but I guess that.
Then why didn't she just break the fucking... Like, okay, I'll be honest. I was not really paying attention to this shit. But also, the reason they put her in the tower was because she turned into an ogre. But they all knew, like, the mom and dad knew that she turned into an ogre. So why didn't they just leave her in her... Because she grew up there.
Right.
And was an ogre as a child, because that's what her diaries say, because Shrek reads her diaries at one point.
Right.
So she could have just stayed there. And then they just put her away at night. But then they put her in this tower and said, like, a prince has to save you. But then they already had an arranged marriage with a prince to marry her.
Yeah, I don't
But then she
it.
got saved by another prince, and then the prince is mad. It's just stupid.
It's stupid.
Hey, guys, Shrek 2 is stupid.
Yeah. We've already spent too much time trying to figure it out. But so that's the conflict. That, and also Shrek not being confident in himself, and also racism. That's the real enemy is racism against ogres. So we go, just like in the first movie, the storybook opening ends, and then it goes into a song and, a general like swamp farting montage. I did have to ask, like, it's honestly like a coin toss to me. Which is worse, the Smash Mouth song from the first movie or the Counting Crows song from this movie? I'm going to have to say the Counting Crows is worse, because Smash Mouth has become like an ironic classic, and the same can't be said for what is this fucking movie? It's like something Accidentally in Love.
Oh, I didn't even remember it. I'm kind of remembering it now. And that's the thing, like the Smash Mouth one is more memorable.
Yeah, exactly. I could sing every lyric of All Star right now, and I could barely remember the title of Accidentally in Love.
Do you remember that version of All Star that someone made where they just took David Lee Roth noises and Running with the Devil and put it like to the tune of All Star? Did someone do that for the Counting Crows song? Nope. So we know who the clear winner is.
Exactly. There's also, it's like they just turned everything up to 11. There were so many just like eye rolling movie references, like for no reason. It's literally, it's like that scene with Robin Hood where they're like spinning around like the Matrix for no goddamn reason. It's like they show Fiona's wedding ring and it does the thing from Lord of the Rings where it spins through the air and lands on her finger. Somehow through some ridiculous circumstances, one of them ends up upside down and they do the Spider-Man kiss. They do the thing.
Oh my God. Yeah, and he has mud on his face. And so she wipes the mud. It's so fucking stupid. I hate that mud is a motif. It's like mud and onions are motifs of Shrek. I hate it.
They do the I couldn't remember the title. I put in my notes the one with the people making out on the beach. It's From Here to Eternity. I just remembered. So that they do the thing, the famous shot of them like passionately kissing on the beach. They do the thing. I don't know. I honestly don't know what movie did this first, but like running through the field toward each other in slow motion. They do that. It's just like, give it a rest. Like the movie's been on for 5 minutes and I'm already overwhelmed. Like this.
I would rather just see them fuck at this point.
Yeah, that is another thing. Shrek and Fiona apparently have an extremely active sex life, and we're just like we're forced to reckon with that right at the beginning. Right at the beginning of the movie, they cannot.
Right after they both fart in some mud.
Yeah, they're literally come home from their honeymoon, and the first thing they want to do is kick Donkey out of the house so they can have sex again. The only thing worse is that later spoiler alert, later we have to deal with Donkey's sex life. So it's like, yeah, I would have preferred full frontal Shrek nudity at that point. So yeah, they come home from their honeymoon, they get cockblocked by Donkey, and then these like heralds show up and
I have something to say about these heralds.
Okay.
Because the heralds show up to invite Shrek and Fiona to the King and Queens, which are Fiona's parents.
Right.
Okay. The whole time the heralds are talking, Fiona stood there with a confused, blank expression on her face. And, like, they announce themselves as the King and Queen of Far, Far Away.
Yeah.
Okay. So surely Fiona knows that she's the princess of Far, Far Away, right?
Right.
Because they go through the whole message and she looks confused as hell. And then at the end, they say, like, your parents. And she's like, my parents? Girl, yes. Like, who did you think the King and Queen of Far, Far Away are? Like, I know you've been in a tower for, like, however many years, 10 years or whatever, but come on.
Marrying an ogre makes you more uncouth and dumber, apparently. So yeah, she's invited to go to Far, Far Away. I think Shrek immediately is like, this is where the weird like interracial marriage subtext.
Oh my God, he's such a fucking bitch from start to finish about this.
Well, he is a Mike Myers character. He wouldn't be a Mike Myers character if he wasn't just generally unpleasant, especially to his romantic partner. That's the most Mike Myersian thing about this movie.
And I feel like the way they present it throughout the entire time that like he's being a bitch to his wife is that we're supposed to like kind of sympathize with him. And I'm like, he's such an asshole to her. Yeah. Like the whole time. After they go to the castle, him and the king get in a fight over dinner.
Yeah, they're like angrily eating at each other.
Which is stupid. And then he starts packing her shit. And she's like, doesn't anybody want to know what I think? And so he like asks, do you want me to pack tonight or tomorrow or something like that? Yeah,
do you want me to pack for you or whatever? Yeah,
right.
Like,
so I would just let him leave.
Yeah, exactly.
You can pack your own shit. I'm staying here.
Yeah, he's a shithead. You can really tell that they did this guess who's coming to dinner thing, but didn't fully think out the implications of making ogres a stand-in for I guess just whatever racialized other, because he says he won't be welcome at the country club, and I'm just like, this is weird. Like this feels like a serious drama about interracial marriage, and yet it's the sequel to Shrek.
Right. And then, okay, so they were just trying to kick Donkey out of the house. Why the fuck is Donkey coming with them to meet Fiona's parents?
I have no idea. Yeah, I don't understand what the relationship is. And I was thinking about this when they come home and Donkey is just there. Like, I guess they weren't expecting Donkey to be there. He just showed up at their house. He claimed to be house sitting for them, but it doesn't seem like they asked him to. Like, he just showed up. I think
he was escaping from the dragon, who he said was being moody, and so he didn't want to deal with her. Because all of the men in this movie are just assholes and don't know how to talk to their wives and girlfriends.
Yeah. So he just shows up, and so I'm like, trying to figure out, it's like the weird dynamic. Like he's kind of their pet, he's kind of their kid, and he's kind of their friend. Like it's a awkward. I guess it's like the whole thing with Disney characters where like Goofy is Mickey's friend, but Pluto, supposedly of the same species, is his dog. Anyway, so they're summoned to far, far away. Shrek reluctantly comes with, and then Donkey eagerly comes with them. They get back in their onion carriage from the end of the first movie, which I guess is now just their car.
I don't know why that tickled me so much.
There's a whole... I thought that was just like a one-time sight gag from the first movie where it was because it was like just married, but now it's just what they use for transportation is this onion-shaped carriage.
Can you imagine your daughter's been locked in the tower for years and years, and then you don't know who she married, but you know she got married, which is also weird. And then they come back from their honeymoon, and you're like all excited to meet her husband, and then they drop up an onion.
Is that a giant onion? And then with this movie, an onion is a fucking metaphor for ogres, so they would be like, oh God, it's an ogre.
Why do they have a donkey that sounds like Eddie Murphy?
Yeah, really, in that perspective, you can't blame the father for, I
would be upset too. Yeah. I would absolutely be racist against ogres. Why do they like onions so much? Oh my God. I don't know why that's hitting me so hard right now. Okay.
That's more than I laughed at any point during the movie. Like,
oh my God. Okay, I'm done. Driving an onion around the countryside. That's so absurd. Okay.
Another axe I have to grind with this movie that I kind of alluded to earlier is and this is something I didn't like about the first movie, like the needle drops, the super recognizable songs. And this one is so much worse.
There's so many of them in this one.
And they're always like the most obvious possible. Like,
it's so cringy. It reminds me of like in school when you had to. Well, I don't know if anyone else had to do this, but I remember like we read Shakespeare, and then one of the projects we had was like making a mixtape of.
Oh yeah, I think I remember that assignment because we went to school.
It's like that. It's like the kind of songs that like a middle schooler thinks they're cool enough to pick music for a project.
Right. It's like, what's the most obvious? So like they go to Far, Far Away, and it's like, well, what's a song about a town that's kind of funky? What about Funky Town by Lip Sync?
Even funky. What's funky about Far, Far Away?
Yeah.
That's just what Shrek and Fiona are listening to in their car, which is an onion. They're just driving around it.
Yeah, maybe we're being
blasting Lip Sync company or what the fuck ever.
Maybe we're being too conceptual about this. But then it's also like, later in the movie, they're like, oh, we need a song about the fact that Shrek just transformed he went through some changes. Oh, Changes by David Bowie. It's like, oh my God. They couldn't even do Changes by Black Sabbath. That would have
I was
been
going to say
cut.
Changes by Black Sabbath would actually fit better tonally.
Yeah, exactly. And I love Funky Town. I'm one of the biggest lip sync apologists you're likely to meet. But man, was that a cliched choice. And
I just have to say this again. I am now like, it's my headcanon that that's just what they listen to in their onion
digest. Yeah, they just have it's actually they listen to the whole lip sync album on the way to far away.
Or it's just pure disco.
So they arrive in Far, Far Away. Shrek meets Fiona's parents, who are played by John Cleese. And then Julie Andrews is the queen. The queen is like, wants to give Shrek a chance. The king is immediately against him. We're supposed to see him as prejudiced, but like Kelly points out, he makes some good points. Shrek specifically, I feel like, I abhor racism, but Shrek is the worst. So he's not wrong. And there's just when they have dinner together, there's this part where Shrek does his stupid better out than in joke for the second time.
Okay, I wrote this down. Why do they laugh every time they say better out than in?
Yeah, because what
does it even mean?
Based on these two movies, we can presume that Shrek says better out than in basically every time someone.
It's a goddamn catchphrase.
Yeah. So him and Fiona just act like that's the funniest thing they've ever heard. And the king, his face, I was like, oh my God, it's like looking in a mirror.
That was my face for the entire movie.
Yeah. There's also just a weird thing is so they sit down to dinner, and again, Donkey is there for no reason other than they gave Eddie Murphy $10 million, so they had to give him something to do. And so they bring out all this spread of generic food. I saw lobster. I saw roast turkey, and they bring it out, and Doggy says, "Oh, Mexican food, my favorite." And I'm like, is this joke going over my head? Like, what? Why does he call it Mexican food?
I guess because he doesn't recognize it.
I guess. I just don't understand what makes it a joke other than that it's clearly not Mexican food.
Well, I'll tell you what, Eddie Murphy said it and used the Eddie Murphy voice. So there you go. It's hilarious.
Yeah. Have I gotten to the, I don't think I've gotten, no, I haven't gotten to the first part that I laughed. The movie's, I feel like the movie's been on for like 20 minutes at this point, and I haven't even cracked a smile.
I think the first time I laughed was when you said that they were driving around in their onion. Yeah. That's my first laugh of the film, and I watched
3 weeks
this movie
after you watched it. So they have this awkward dinner, and Shrek and the king are fighting, and Shrek storms off because he's played by Mike Myers.
That wasn't in the script. Mike Myers put that in the script.
They had to go in a whole different direction. So, Fiona's crying, and that makes the fairy godmother appear. Shrek and Fiona have an argument. Meanwhile, Fiona's parents are arguing. And I was just thinking at this point, like when we're just cutting back and forth between various domestic disputes, I'm like, who was watching the first Shrek and was like, you know what I want to see? I want to see a sequel to this where everybody's married and they're just bickering constantly. It's just like, who asked for this?
I like the part where Fiona says to Shrek, "You're behaving like a," and then she pauses. And then in the pause, he said, "Say it." And my first thought is she's going to call him a bitch because surely that's what he's acting like. And it was ogre.
Right.
She's going to call him an ogre. He wasn't acting like an ogre. He's acting like a bitch.
Which also, again, has uncomfortable parallels when you're thinking about this as a race allegory. Is ogre a slur? Right.
And then also it's like, why is being an ogre, why is acting like a bitch a characteristic of being an ogre?
She's also an ogre, and she doesn't act like this. I think he's acting like a bitch.
Acting like Mike Myers.
Yeah. Say it.
Say it.
A Mike Myers character.
You're acting like a Mike.
after we have all these married couples arguing in their respective bedrooms, the fairy godmother shows up. She takes the king for like a mafia style threatening ride, and this is where we find out that the whole thing was like it's gonna give me a headache to try and unravel what was going on. But basically, I think she was gonna break Fiona's curse, but couldn't just break the curse, needed to, and I don't know, maybe it was like, she was like, what's in it for me? Maybe that's what we'll say, that she didn't want to just straightforward break the curse. She needed something in return. Something in return was for her son to become the king. Maybe that's what it is.
But if that's the case,
they don't explain
why
that.
did they put her in the tower? Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't make any fucking sense.
Yeah.
Just keep her until
Right.
they're
Cut out
old
the
enough to
middle.
marry.
Yeah, it's stupid. So she and Prince Charming are both mad that they didn't end up together, and she threatens, she's like, you have to get rid of this ogre. So then the king goes to the poison apple, which again is like the one part of the movie that I remember because it's actually interesting. And you see it for probably about 2 minutes of the full runtime of the movie. He goes to the poison apple. This is where I'm not gonna dwell on this, but it's very bizarre. So there's the bartender is the ugly stepsister, who for some reason is just literally a man. I don't know if it's supposed to actually be a man or a trans woman. I mean, it's 2004, so I don't think.
I assumed it was a really bad depiction of a trans woman. Honestly.
Right, yeah, but. I looked it up because I was like, who plays the ugly stepsister? Oh, it's Larry King. Why is Larry King?
Is Larry King dead?
I think he is. Yeah, I think he died more recently than you would expect.
No, he died in January.
Oh, wow.
Because he had COVID, right? I just couldn't remember if he died of it or not.
Yeah, probably. So anyway, this is how I'm going to remember him now, as the ugly stepsister in Shrek 2.
R.I.P. I mean, that was in that was in 2010. He's also in Shrek Forever After.
My God, as the ugly stepsister again?
I imagine so.
God. Okay. Well, at least I know it's coming. He's in every following Shrek. So he's in Shrek 2, Shrek the Third, and Shrek Forever. He's such a minor character. This is what I hate about these movies, is that like the gingerbread man was in like one scene of Shrek. And now
he died. He got put in the bin.
Yeah. And now he's a fucking character and he's in every movie. Pinocchio, one scene. He was just like one of the random fairy tale creatures at the beginning of the movie, and now he's in this movie way more, and we find out that he's wearing a woman's thong for some reason. And then the movie just
bizarre
keeps us with that knowledge that we just move on. Like, these characters, they seem so minor, and then they show up in every movie after and they all sing karaoke together. I hate it.
Where do you even get a thong? Like, what did Pinocchio just go and buy a thong?
I don't know. And why? How do they know specifically that it's a women's thong? Well, I guess because he says he's not wearing women's, because there's men's thongs too.
Yeah, but they show it in his pink and lacy, I guess. But it's and they do say it's a women's thong or whatever. Right. It's women's underwear. And then the gingerbread man says, and it's a thong or whatever.
Yeah, it just brings up, just something that I just never like. I don't care if men wear women's underwear. I do kind of care if Pinocchio wears women's underwear in a children's movie.
Right.
It's not
there's
not
like
something that I needed
there's really no reason to bring it up. Like, why does Pinocchio even need to wear underwear? So, like, he's a puppet. Famously, he's a puppet. So, like, he just has puppet clothes and he takes his puppet clothes off and puts a thong on. He doesn't even have an ass crack to put a thong in. Unless Geppetto crafted an ass crack for him.
Again, this is just not a rabbit hole that anyone needs to go down. But the movie forces us to. So at the Poison Apple, he meets with a character who's in shadows, but it's obviously Puss in Boots. It's played by Antonio Banderas, another character that they just like ran into the fucking ground. Like I feel like in a, if you put yourself into a pre Puss in Boots having his own spin-off movie universe, I don't mind the character. You know, it's like probably one of the more charming parts of the movie, but it is hard to view him in that light because now we've just been so oversaturated with Puss in Boots.
Yeah, I wonder if that's why this movie was so shitty this time around, because when it first came out, it's just like, oh, it's more Shrek. Right. But now it's like we have like 5 more fucking Shreks that have come out
exactly.
Since,
like we didn't know, we weren't sick
so
of it.
Inundated with Shrek.
Yeah. we cut back from this. Shrek is now in his underwear, having an existential crisis.
Relatable.
Yeah, exactly. It's probably his most relatable moment. He reads Fiona's diary, and this is like I don't know. Maybe I'm expecting too much out of Shrek. I'm expecting him to be a more evolved man, but like he reads Fiona's diary and he gets like upset because she knew that she was supposed to marry Prince Charming, and so she's like dreaming about Prince Charming.
Oh my God, I forgot that she knew she was supposed to. Why the fuck is in that tower?
You got me. So he gets depressed because she was like dreaming about meeting Prince Charming. And it's kind of like, yeah, Shrek, like, I'm sorry, but after you're like, once you're an adult, you have to deal with the fact that whoever you're dating or married to had other interests or other partners before you did. Like, you can't just be a bitch about it. Like, you just have to.
What was she supposed to be like fantasizing at like
about Shrek?
At 12 years old about some random fucko ogre in the swamp farting in the mud?
Right.
She didn't even know who you were.
Yeah. Meanwhile, and then in the middle of this, the king shows up and he invites Shrek to the hunt in the morning, which we know is a ruse so that Puss in Boots will kill him. Next scene, Puss in Boots actually shows up. He spills the beans right away. One thing I'll say about this is like, I feel like I remember this moment from like every trailer where Puss in Boots shows up and then he immediately coughs up a hairball, and it's like, whatever. It's an obvious way to go with that character. But what I enjoy about this scene is that Antonio Banderas presumably had to pretend to cough up a hairball in the voice booth, which that is funnier than the actual hairball scene. This scene was also my first and maybe only like actual laugh. Was when Puss in Boots showed up and he had his sword out and Donkey said, "Look out, he got a piece." It's just such a weird thing to say that it made me laugh. Puss in Boots tells him, "Your wife's dad hired me to kill you." So then Shrek is like, okay. He contacts the fairy godmother. Meanwhile, Fiona wakes up and I don't know, she sees Shrek read her diary, and I guess it's like she's not mad at Shrek. At no point is she mad at Shrek, which I find kind of odd because Shrek again is acting in a completely unreasonable way for a presumably adult person, ogre. But she just wants to find Shrek, and her dad is like evasive about it because he just hired a hitman to kill him. Which the movie really glosses over. So then now Shrek and Donkey and Puss in Boots have all teamed up. There's this like brief dynamic where Donkey is jealous of Puss, but they don't really go anywhere with it. It's just like just like something to happen on the way to the next plot thing. They go find the fairy godmother's cottage, which is also a potion factory, and sneak in there through various subterfuge.
You know what's funny about this part is like I saw this a lot as a kid just because they would like, I remember we put it on in band all the time whenever we didn't have shit to do for whatever reason. They would put it on in band class.
Put on Shrek 2.
for some reason, yeah, not even Shrek 1. Shrek 2. For some reason, the part where Shrek is in disguise in the fairy godmother's factory and he's talking to the other workers to, I guess, not bring attention to himself. And he says to the one worker, he's like, working hard or hardly working. For some reason, that has always stuck with me. And I like think about that all the time. I don't know why. Because whenever I think about that phrase, I think about Mike Myers saying that.
In a Scottish accent.
Yeah, it's so stupid. It's not even funny. It's like, it's not because it's funny. It just stuck with me, and I think about it often.
So they sneak in, they steal this potion that's labeled happily ever after, don't know what it's going to do, but they're just like, I don't actually know what Shrek's plan is. I guess I think he explicitly wants to turn human, right? And
I don't know. I think he just wants Fiona to be happy, which is like, okay, stop being an asshole to her, then stop yelling at her and sulking all the time.
Yeah, kind of don't need a potion for that, but so he finds this potion. He and Donkey take it. And then it also affects Fiona. So I just decided to just roll with it because I'm like, I don't get how this works, but I guess it's magic, not science. There's some, because there's this connection with him and his true love. I guess the fact that he took it also means that she gets affected.
Well, I guess when they got married, she turned into an ogre permanently. So I guess if he's human, then she can't be an ogre anymore. I don't know.
Yeah. So this is when Shrek, he and Donkey both faint. Shrek wakes up. From context clues, we can conclude that he's handsome. I can kind of see it. Like, I guess he looks kind of like an ugly DreamWorks version of like a John Hamm. I think that's what they were going for. But the DreamWorksness of it just makes it hard to tell that he's supposed to be like a sexy man. And Donkey is a stallion. They rob a guy of his clothes because obviously he doesn't fit into his Shrek clothes anymore. So their solution is to literally commit highway robbery. I was like, this is a weird turn. And the first guy they rob is like a little man wearing a wig. And it's like, why did you think that those clothes were going to fit you? It's just a strange scene, just in general. And then they also rob his son and those fit. I don't know.
So they just beat up 2 people and leave them on the side of the road.
Yeah, exactly. They're the good guys. So they go back to Far, Far Away, and the fairy godmother traps him. Like, again, her plans have so many variables to them. She traps him in a room and then passes off Prince Charming as human Shrek. And then she like gaslights him into being like, Fiona's happy now. Why don't you just go back to the swamp? Because the whole thing is he has to kiss Fiona before midnight or else he'll turn back into an ogre. I guess. So
Fiona thinks that she's kissing Shrek the whole time. She thinks he's so it's basically rape.
Yeah, exactly. And then we also have she wants her dad to slip her a love potion so that she'll fall in love with Prince Charming. So yeah, we are basically seeing a 2 parents conspire to have one of their child sexually assault the other one. Again, in a family film.
Is that what happened in Guess Who's Coming to Dinner?
Not that I remember. So yeah, apparently Shrek just has really low self-esteem because the fairy godmother's like, just let her be happy. And he's like, okay. And he leaves. Like, he could easily just like run out there and be like, Fiona, it's me. But instead he's like, well, she's with this handsome Rupert Everett man now. So
which is exactly what happened in the last one, where like he just overheard stuff happening.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I guess
jump to wild conclusion. This whole franchise would be over so much more quickly if Shrek just got therapy, because he's clearly has really bad self-esteem and is just acting self-destructively. And from what I understand, I haven't seen the 3rd and 4th, but from what I understand, is basically the same thing every time. He's just this sad sack that jumps to conclusions and doesn't grow emotionally from one movie to the next.
Yeah, and that sounds like Wayne's World 1 and 2 also.
Yeah, exactly. So maybe this is more of a Mike Myers movie than I was giving it credit for. So Shrek, he goes to drink at the Poison Apple, and then it's only by happenstance that the king shows up to meet with the fairy godmother, and he overhears them. And for once, he actually listens to what they're saying and doesn't just walk off after the least opportune part of the conversation. So then he goes back, and now we have this really bizarre cut, which it did eventually make sense. But I was like, I mean, especially at this point, I still thought the movie was going to be 2 hours long. And I was like, yo, Jesus Christ, they could have cut this whole sequence for time. So suddenly they're having this royal ball, and Joan Rivers is there at the red carpet. And the gingerbread man and Pinocchio are watching it again on the magic mirror. And then it becomes the cops parody, and Shrek is being arrested. And this whole thing is just so that we can introduce the gingerbread man and Pinocchio.
And Donkey, during the Cops parody, Donkey is yelling about police brutality. Just really, really tone deaf. It was then, and it certainly is now.
Yeah. So now they're in a dungeon, and this is where the king is going to roofie his daughter. Fortunately, he thinks better of giving it to her. So that's something. You know, he's a decent guy. He only tried to have his son-in-law killed by a professional hitman. Gingerbread and Pinocchio break Shrek, Donkey, and Puss in Boots out of jail. And
they kept saying Gingy, and I was just like, who the fuck is Gingy?
I know. It's like...
And then I realized it's the stupid gingerbread man who now has like a nickname that everyone calls him.
Again, a character that was supposed to be dead. They do a fucking Mission Impossible, the first Mission Impossible parody, because of course they do. And then they bring back the Muffin Man joke. It's like, who was waiting for that to pay off from the very
right? First... But it does finally pay off, because in the first movie it doesn't.
Yeah, maybe they were like, we left a loose end. The world needs to know who the Muffin Man is. Is the Muffin Man? Did he create the gingerbread man? Is that what? Because I mean, gingerbread is not a muffin. It just seems. I guess he's just a general baker.
He makes that big kaiju gingerbread.
Yeah,
man.
he makes a giant gingerbread man that looks exactly like the gingerbread man. I refuse to call him Gingy. I'm just not going to. And then so they ride this giant gingerbread man to crash the ball.
Why?
I guess so they don't.
Then the huge gingerbread man dies. Like they end up like shooting him down or something, and he ends up in the moat and dies. Yeah. So it's like, why did they even fucking do that?
So, they break up the wedding. Oh my God. This is another part of the movie that I did remember, but not fondly. A couple of things. I remembered the hairball from the trailers. I remembered the poison apple scenes. And then I remembered just an interminable sequence of Jennifer Saunders as the fairy godmother singing Holding Out for a Hero. Yeah, it is so long. Like, it just goes on.
I think people love this part, though, because if you look up Shrek, that's like one of the things that comes up on YouTube is that video. And then I saw another meme about Shrek, which is funny because, like, I'm not on Instagram looking for Shrek memes, but they just find me somehow. And it was a picture of like a screenshot from that part, and it said like, this is the pinnacle of film or whatever. And obviously it was a meme. It was like a joke, but it's also like they probably meant that a little bit.
Yeah, it's not my favorite. And I say this as I fucking love some Jim Steinman, but I don't need to hear an auto-tuned Jennifer Saunders sing it for what feels like 3 hours. And it's also like, I'm ready for this movie to end. Like we got, this is clearly Endgame. Like Shrek knows the whole plan. He's got a giant gingerbread man. He's storming the castle to get Fiona back. It's like, I do not want to hear you sing any Jim Steinman song, but definitely not that one. It just goes on for so long. So finally that ends. Shrek shows up, confronts the bad guys. Godmother tries to kill Shrek. The king, because he's finally grown some balls, jumps in front of the magic bolt, and he turns into a frog. At first I thought that she turned him into a frog, but I guess he's been a frog all along. And I guess that's supposed to explain, like, he's the frog prince, and that's supposed to explain why he tried to have Shrek knocked off. I would not have accepted that as readily as Shrek did. Like, again, I think Shrek has really bad self-esteem, because I would have been like, motherfucker, you tried to kill me. Like, I would be like, oh, it's, all water under the bridge. I get it. You're a frog, and you wanted your daughter to be happy. Like, I would be like, fuck you.
We're all green here.
Yeah. You hired a hitman. But I guess he's also friends with the hitman now. So Shrek is a more tolerant person than me. I guess that's the lesson. Shrek and Fiona turn back into ogres. Then we got a fucking karaoke.
Thank God. Honestly, thank God, because even Fiona was looking terrible in this. Like, they just look so ugly as humans. Yeah. Like when you look uglier as a human and you're an ogre, there's something wrong.
We got another karaoke ending. Again, not as good. Not as good as I'm a Believer. And I didn't even like that part of the first Shrek. But
don't they sing "Livin' La Vida Loca" or whatever? It's Donkey and Puss in Boots singing "Livin' La Vida Loca."
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely the biggest like fever dream moment of the movie, and this is a movie that has Larry King playing a 6 foot tall woman. So this is something that I have a problem with. So Shrek is like famously a curmudgeon, and yet in 2 movies now he has enthusiastically participated in karaoke, and as a curmudgeon, I take issue with this because there is no way that Shrek likes karaoke. There's no way.
Right.
He hates everything and everyone, and yet he's like, let me sing a Billy Joel song. Like,
as someone who also hates everything and everyone, I call bullshit.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, this is not relatable.
It's the most unrealistic part of these movies.
So yeah, the movie's over, but then there is a post-credit sequence where this is where we again introduce that the donkey is sexually active. As if it wasn't bad enough that Shrek and Fiona were. And him and the dragon, I think we touched upon this in the last Shrek episode. Him and the dragon have this litter of just unholy donkey dragon hybrids, which again, for a movie that is a thinly veiled commentary on interracial relationships, ending it with these crossbred donkeys and dragons, is putting me off the idea. Certainly interspecies. I guess that's the thing. Interracial is fine. Interspecies is against God. And I don't think it's controversial to say that.
How would that even be possible? Because dragons are like reptiles.
Right. Yeah. They should not. I guess I will accept donkey could theoretically fuck anything with a hole, but but his seed shouldn't find purchase. So it really just leaves.
I don't want to think about it anymore. But guess what? We're gonna have to because as I recall, Shrek the Third has a whole lot of the babies in it.
Well, I feel like the whole, if I recall correctly, Shrek the Third, the whole movie is about the like progeny of these characters. So yeah, we're just going to be confronted with their sexuality for the rest of this series, and I'm not looking forward to it. I did want to mention, because I didn't watch this, and I'm not going to watch this, but much like last time we discussed Shrek in the Swamp Karaoke, or whatever the hell it's called, there's a special feature on the Shrek 2 DVD called Far, Far Away Idol, guest starring Simon Cowell. It says from Wikipedia, taking place right after Shrek 2 ends. So I guess it is canonically, it has a place in time. The short features characters from Shrek competing in a sing-off while being judged by Shrek, Fiona, and Cowell. So presumably Shrek is Randy Jackson.
Oh my God.
Fiona is Paula Abdul.
I just looked it up to see if it was on YouTube, and you have to fucking buy it.
Oh my God. I would rather die.
For $3. I think there might be a really shitty version that someone uploaded, but still. And if you want to see a good version of it, you have to buy it.
Oh my God. You couldn't pay me. You couldn't pay me $3 to watch this. What I am going to do, though, I am going to look up from the Shrek Wiki. I'm going to look up Far, Far Away Idol.
I feel like I've seen this because I remember we didn't own Shrek 2 on DVD, though, so I don't know how the fuck I would have seen this, but I remember seeing Simon Cowell in like the DreamWorks Shrek whatever. So maybe like when we watched it in band class, they left it on or put this on or something.
Yeah, so so here's the songs. Donkey sings Disco Inferno. Pinocchio sings Mr. Roboto. Doris, who the fuck is Doris? This happened last time. They just like Shrek Wiki just casually introduces somebody. Okay, Doris is the ugly stepsister.
Oh.
They never said that.
But you know what's funny is when I looked up who Larry King was, it just said Doris. But I just used context clues to figure out that was the ugly stepsister. But then I forgot. That's what you just said that.
So Doris, aka Larry King,
right? She wins.
Well, okay. Well, so here's something. On the DVD, it's interactive, so you get to vote. And apparently, it says that if you choose Pinocchio, Simon Cowell says, "No, you got to be joking." If you choose Ugly Stepsister, Simon Cowell says, "Sorry, that is complete rubbish." If you choose Big Bad Wolf, he says, "Impossible, I won't allow it." If you choose Prince Charming, he says, "Please, I don't think so." If you choose
the DVD, it's Ugly Stepsister. When she wins, it's Doris.
If you choose the Three Blind Mice, he says, "I'm sorry, I'm afraid you choose wrong." If you choose Gingy, Simon Cowell says, "Now you're being ridiculous." And if you choose Captain Hook, he says, "That is just wrong." So Simon Cowell protests everyone.
Except Shrek and Fiona, right?
I guess, yeah.
Shrek, Fiona,
they're not options.
Or Puss. You can only, what the fuck?
So you're always wrong. And then Simon sings, oh my God, Simon Cowell sings My Way by Frank Sinatra. Yeah, I would blow my brains out before I would watch this. $3. Fuck you.
Well, I found a really shitty version on YouTube. I think I'm gonna watch it just because I did that with the swamp karaoke thing too. Is after we finished talking, I'm like, I want to watch this.
It is kind of like, I want to see how this works.
I love stupid shit.
Yeah.
I mean, look at ourselves.
Right.
We're 9 months into 12 months of Mike.
Yeah, exactly.
I might as well watch whatever the hell this is.
Apparently, Captain Hook sings "Hooked on a Feeling" by Blue. Well, I guess it's the version by Blue Suede. This is confusing to me because, like I mentioned before, Captain Hook sings 2 songs in the movie, and he's just lip syncing, or whatever the CGI equivalent of lip syncing is, to a song by Tom Waits and a song by Nick Cave. So who the hell does Captain Hook's voice in this in this Far, Far Away Idol? I hope it's Tom Waits. I want to hear Tom Waits sing "Hooked on a Feeling."
Well, I'll let you know.
So yeah, and that ends Shrek 2. Next month we have another Shrek because we're idiots. And we did not think through the implications. Yeah, I was thoroughly underwhelmed by Shrek 2, and that was in my head as roughly on par with the first movie. And I don't think I've ever had any illusions about Shrek the Third being any good. So my expectations are rock bottom.
No, it's going to be terrible. I'm not looking forward to it.
Yeah. So be excited about that. Let's, as always, let us know what you're thinking about these movies. And we will be back for another probably very grim discussion in about a month. Bye.